All right, we have our quiz on Tuesday when you guys return from your long weekend. So I want to make sure that we understand how to do these problems, where to look, all that good stuff. If you want to go ahead and do this along with me as we work, that's fine. If you just kind of want to watch, answer questions, and then do it over the weekend and turn it in Tuesday, that's fine as well. I just made the quizzes. There's, I don't know, like 7 or 8 questions, so it's not as long as this review. You'll have one of something similar to 1 and 2. You'll have one question similar to 3 and 4, and then the rest of them will be from the cheat sheet on rationals on 3.6. So let's look at a question like 1 and 2. We're going to do all these together. Watch me work along, whatever. First of all, notice that the highest exponent you see is what? 4. So when they tell you to find all of the zeros and they give you one of the imaginary ones, you know you should have 4 answers in total. So I look over here, and they have given me x equals negative 3i. Since they gave me an imaginary x equals negative 3i, what else did they give me? X equals what? Positive 3i. Good. So we're going to take these two imaginaries, and we're going to multiply them together. So when I move 3i over, this becomes x plus 3i. When I move this 3i over, this becomes x minus 3i. And now we FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times negative 3i is negative 3xi. 3i times x is plus 3xi. And negative 3i and positive 3i is minus 9i squared. So in the middle here, this cancels. When I see I squared, what do? I cross it off and I change the sign in the front. So I have created this polynomial, God bless you, of x squared plus 9. Now we take that and we divide it into our original polynomial. Guys, it's x squared plus 9, so you have to have a space for 0x, and then your 9. And then on the inside, you have 2x to the 4th plus x cubed plus 15x squared plus 9x minus 27. So we already have 2 of our zeros. Now we're going to find how many more? 2 more. Good. When you guys do this long division on a problem like this, will you have a remainder? No. You absolutely will not. So if you do, you got to go back because you did something wrong. But you should not get a remainder here. So let's go through this. First term into first term. X squared goes into 2x to the 4th. How many times? 2x squared. So I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to get my subtraction ready before I multiply. So 2x times x squared is 2x to the 4th. 2x squared times 0 is just going to give me 0x cubes. And 2x squared and 9 is going to give me 18x squared. So we're going to distribute. So 15 minus 18x squared is negative 3x squared. X cubed plus nothing is going to give me x cubed, and I bring down my 9x. And then we go again. X squared into x cubed goes x times. So get your subtraction ready. X times x squared is x cubed. X times 0x is 0x squared. And x times 9 is 9x. So I go through and I distribute. 9x and 0 and 9x crosses out. Negative 3x squared and nothing is negative 3x squared. And then I bring down my negative 27. So first term into first term. X squared into negative 3x squared is minus 3. Get your subtraction ready. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times 0x is 0. And negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. And when you distribute, what happens to everything down here? It cancels out. So what do you do with this? That doesn't say x equals. What do you do with that now? You set that equal to 0. 2x squared plus x minus 3 equals 0. You guys are going to have to factor. You're going to have to factor a lot on this quiz. But we've done that like a gajillion times. So what are the factors of negative 6 that are going to multiply to give me negative 6, but adds give me a 1? Plus 3 and minus 2. And then what do I have to do first before I can just set equal to 0? Divide by your coefficient. Divide by 2. So I have 2x plus 3 and I have x minus 1. Now we set each of those equal to 0. So your answer here would be x equals negative 3 over 2 and x equals positive 1. Questions? Your problem ends up being a little longer when your initial roots here are simpler. When you get more of a complex root that has an imaginary part and a real part, your work's not nearly as long. All right, let's look at the next one. They gave me x equals 3 minus 2i, so I know they also gave me what else?
3 plus 2i.
X equals 3 plus 2i. So first thing I'm going to do is move this root over. So it's going to become x minus 3 plus 2i. I'm going to move this one over, and it's going to become x minus 3 minus 2i. That first sign stays the same. The second sign is the one that changes. So guys, use your shortcut. You have x minus 3 how many times? Twice. You have 2i how many times? Twice. So put it in parentheses. And then that minus sign goes in the middle. So if I'm going to multiply x minus 3 times x minus 3, x times x is x squared. Negative 3 plus negative 3 is going to give me minus 6x. Negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give you plus 9. And what happens here? What happens over here with 2i squared? That squared goes to the 2 and to the I. You guys got to remember that. So this becomes negative 4i squared, which then becomes what? Plus 4. As soon as you see that I squared, you cross it off, change the sign in front. And then when we combine 9 and 4, we get 13. So you have the polynomial x squared minus 6x plus 13, and you're going to divide that into x cubed minus 11x squared plus 43x minus 65. Now, what's the highest exponent in your original polynomial? 3. How many zeros did you already account for? 2. So how many are you going to find now? 1. And remember, when we do our long division here, should you get a remainder? No. So let's hope we don't. X squared into x cubed goes how many times? X. So get your subtraction ready before you multiply. X times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 6 is negative 6x squared. X times 13 is plus 13x. Distribute, 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 distribute. 43 minus 13 is going to give me a positive 30x. Negative 11 and a positive 6 is going to give me negative 5x squared. And then my minus 65 comes down here. Go again. X squared into negative 5x squared minus 5, right? So what do we hope happens here? Everything cancels out. Negative 5 times x squared is negative 5x squared. Negative 5 and negative 6 is plus 30x. What do you think negative 5 times 13 is? Negative 65. Then when we go here and distribute, 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 everything does what? Cancels out. What do I do now with this x minus 5 equals 0? Sorry, equals 0. So we solve it and x equals 5. What you guys will circle as your answer are your real ones, because if you get the real ones right, then that means you got the imaginary. God bless you. The imaginary one's right because you arrived at the correct real answer. Questions? All right, let's move down here. Let's look at 3 and 4. Again, if you're given zeros and it says write the polynomial, your answer should start with what? F of x, g of x, h of x. I don't care, but you have to have it in function notation. The directions on the quiz says use all the proper notations. If you don't do everything that you're supposed to, all the little things, you're going to get points off. So they gave me a real answer of x equals 3, and they gave me an imaginary one of x equals 7i. What else do I need to account for? Negative 7i. What's the highest exponent that should be in my polynomial here? X cubed. Good. So I'm going to multiply everything out. When I move 3 over, this becomes minus 3. When I move 7i over, it becomes x minus 7i. When I move negative 7i over, it becomes x plus 7i. What should you multiply together first? The imaginaries. Okay, let's leave x minus 3 out here. We'll deal with that later. But x times x is going to give me x squared. X times 7i is plus 7xi. Negative 7i and x is minus 7xi. And negative 7i and a positive 7i is negative 49i squared. What happens to the 7xi's in the middle? Cancel. And I see I squared. What does that do? Cross it off and change this. So this is actually x squared plus 49. And now we FOIL. X times x squared is x cubed. X times 49 is plus 49x. Negative 3 and x squared is negative 3x squared. And what's negative 3 and 49? What's 3 times 50? 150. So what's 3 times 49? Bamford, good. And Jessica, good. Negative 147. And what goes in front of my answer? F of x, g of x, h of x, something in terms of x.
We have to switch it into.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to do that part. You're right. I was thinking I'd already put it in standard form. Thank you. There should be x cubed, what? Minus 3x squared plus 49x minus 147. Thank you, both of you. Good job. Yes, got to be in standard form. All right, let's scoot along. All right, they gave me 2, but they actually, in reality, gave me 3. What's the third one that I have to account for? X equals negative 5 plus 4i. Very good. So I have my real one, x plus 2. I'm going to put it over here. And then I have my fake ones. When I bring negative 5 minus 4 over, this becomes x plus 5 minus 4i. And x plus 5 what? Plus 4i. Just got to have different. So keep your x plus 2 hanging out over here. Let's do our shortcut. X plus 5 quantity squared. 4i quantity squared. A minus sign goes in the middle there. So when I FOIL, I have x times x is x squared. 5x plus 5x is going to give me 10x. 5 times 5 is going to give me 25, right? And then I have 4i squared. Well, what does 4i squared equal? 16i squared, which is the same as plus 16. I squared is negative 1, so we cross it off and change the sign. So we got to add those two together. So I'm going to FOIL together x plus 2 and then x squared plus 10x plus 41. Take your time. I know this appears like the numbers get large. They really don't. X times x squared is x cubed. X times 10x is plus 10x squared. X times 41 is plus 41x. 2 and x squared is plus 2x squared. 2 and 10 is plus 20x. And 2 and 41 is plus 82, right? So now we combine, combine, and we write our answer. I have f of x equals x cubed. What's 10x squared and 2x squared? 12x squared, good. What's 41 and 20? 61x, and then plus 82. All right, questions on those first two types. You'll have one of each of those. One of either 1 or 2, and one of either 3 or 4. Then the rest of your quiz will come from 3.6, your cheat sheet. You will not have any questions that say, find everything. You'll find one of these things, or find both of this or something, but you will not have a question that says find everything. So let's remind ourselves. If I look at these directions, the first one is asking me to find 4 different things. I know that vertical asymptotes and domain go together. Where do we look for vertical asymptotes and domain? To the denominator. Give yourself a little reminder. You will not have your cheat sheet on your quiz, so give yourself a reminder. How do you find the horizontals? We compare. All right, you're going to compare the numerator degree and the denominator degree. And then how do you find slant asymptote? Yep, you're going to do long division. Long division. Good. All right, so let's just go through this. We can do this relatively quickly. What do you think I'm going to suggest you do in number 5 first? I'm going to do vertical and domain, but what do you think I'm going to do before I even try to solve anything? I'm going to put it in standard form. Very easily, because the degrees are the same, right? When you compare, you'd say, oh, it's 1 to 1. So then you'd say your horizontal asymptote is at 12 over 5, and that's not the case. It's the leading coefficient over the leading coefficient. The leading coefficient here would be 3. It's 3x plus 12. If you're not in standard form, I'd go ahead and rewrite it so it is. So now let's find our vertical asymptote and our domain. We find both of those things by looking where? Okay, so 5x plus 2 equals 0. 5x equals negative 2. Divide both sides by 5. What does x equal? So you have a vertical asymptote at x equals negative 2/5. You have to have x equals. If you just write negative 2/5, it's not a complete answer. If you know that you can use any number in the world except for negative 2/5, what would your domain be? Negative infinity to negative 2/5 union negative 2/5 to infinity. Perfect. All right, next thing we're going to find is our horizontal asymptote. How do you do that again? You compare numerator degree to denominator degree. What is the degree of the numerator? 1. What's the degree of the denominator? 1. If the degrees of the numerator and denominator are the same, it's the leading coefficient of the numerator, which is 3, over the leading coefficient of the denominator, which is 5. That is your horizontal asymptote. Now, some of us can remember this great. If not, that's okay too. But if you have a horizontal asymptote, what does that tell you about your slant asymptote? There is none. You cannot have a slant and a horizontal. If you have a horizontal asymptote, that is the leading coefficient over the numerator divided by the denominator, or you have one that's y equals 0, there is no slant asymptote. If you don't remember that, that's fine. How do you find the slant asymptote? You divide. So you would say 5x plus 2 on the outside and 3x plus 12 on the inside, right? First term into first term. 5x times what is going to give me 3x? It's going to be a fraction of some sort. Somebody last year was like, you can't do that. You can. You'd have to multiply it by 3/5. But what you understand here is you're not going to get something that says 3x plus 4 or something like that. Once you realize, oh, wait, that's not going to go in, this isn't going to work, you can say, oh, there's no slant asymptote or none.
So you always only have one of the two.
Mm-hmm. Correct. All right, let's look at number 6. Let's go through these kind of quick. I'm going to find domain and vertical asymptote at the same time. Where do I look? Denominator, okay? X plus 2 equals 0. X equals negative 2. What did I just find? My vertical asymptote. Good. What's the domain then? Negative infinity to negative 2 union negative 2 to infinity. Good. How do you find the horizontal asymptote?
You
Compare numerator and denominator. What's the degree of the numerator? 2. What's the degree of the denominator? 2 is greater than 1. So there's no horizontal asymptote. If you know there's no horizontal asymptote, what do you know there is? A slant. How do we find slant asymptote? Long division. So my slant asymptote, I'm going to say on the outside, x plus 2. On the inside, x squared. I have to account for all the stuff behind x squared. So plus 0x plus 0 as a constant. X into x squared goes how many times? X. Get your subtraction ready. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Distribute, distribute, distribute. 0 minus 2, that's going to give me negative 2x. My x squareds cancel, and I bring down my 0. First term into first term. X into negative 2x is what? Minus 2. Okay, get your subtraction ready. Negative 2 and x is negative 2x. Negative 2 and positive 2 is negative 4. Distribute, 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 and I get 4. Is 4 part of my answer? No. 4 is not part of my answer. The only thing that is my answer is y equals x minus 2. Your slant asymptote has to be in y equals mx plus b. Has to be. Make sure. If you just leave it as x minus 2, you're going to get points off. It has to say y equals. All right, let's look at 7. Again, same thing. Find the vertical asymptote and the domain. I look where? X squared minus 25 equals 0. So x squared equals 25. Take the square root. X equals plus or minus what? 5. That's your vertical asymptotes. There's 2 of them. What is your domain in this case? Negative infinity to negative 5. Good. Union. Negative 5 to 5. Union. 5 to infinity. Good. Guys, this is a side note. All right, let's say my denominator was x squared plus 25. And I asked you to find the vertical asymptotes. All right, if you set this equal to 0, you'd get x squared equals negative 25. You take the square root, and you get x equals plus or minus 5i. If you get an imaginary answer for domain, for any asymptotes, what is your answer here? Your answer would be none. We are only talking about real numbers. So if you get anything that's imaginary, guys, this is not the answer. It would be none. Just want to bring that to your attention. All right, let's talk about the other one, horizontal asymptote. How do you find that? Compare numerator and denominator. What is the degree of the numerator? 1. What's the degree of the denominator? 2. 1 is what than 2? Less than. What is the horizontal asymptote if 1 is less than 2? Y equals 0. Is that an asymptote?
Yes.
Yes. So what do you know about your slant asymptote? There is none. Again, if you're like, oh, I just can't remember that rule, no big deal. Do long division. X squared plus 0x minus 25 into x. Doesn't even look like it works, guys, right? But if you said first term into first term, x squared times what gives me x, you'd be like, that doesn't work. There's none. All right, questions? Nobody has any questions? All right, let's go to the next page. Finish this up. All right, vertical, slant, and x and y intercepts. Where do I look for vertical? Denominator. So vertical, I'm going to say, okay, x plus 3 equals 0. I have a vertical asymptote at x equals what? Negative 3. Slant asymptote, what do I do? Long division. X plus 3 into x squared plus 7x plus 10. First term into first term. X goes into x squared how many times? X, good. X times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Distribute, distribute, distribute. 7 minus 3 is 4. Bring down your 10. First term into first term. X into 4x goes how many times? So plus 4. Get your subtraction ready. So this is 4x plus 12. Do you have to do anything else here?
No.
Why not?
Because
The remainder doesn't matter. Your slant asymptote answer would be y equals x plus 4. It has to say y equals. Now, if we're going to find intercepts, guys, how do you find the x-intercept? What does the cheat sheet say to do? Set the numerator, that's the one on top, equal to 0. How do you find the y-intercept? You plug in 0 for x. All right? So if I'm going to find the x-intercept, I'm going to take the numerator, x squared plus 7x plus 10, and set it equal to 0. So when I factor this, what are the factors of 10 that multiply to give me 10? Add to give me 7. X plus 5, x plus 2. So I have x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 2. In order to get full credit, how do you write your intercepts? As ordered pairs. So it'd be negative 5, comma 0 and negative 2, comma 0. Good. If we're going to find our y-intercepts, I plug in 0 everywhere I see an x. So I have 0 squared plus 7 times 0 plus 10 over 0 plus 3. So everything cancels out here, and I get 10 over 3. Can I reduce that at all? No. So you would write that as, I plugged in 0, I got out 10 over 3. And here's your intercept. You guys will have to factor on this quiz. I told you guys before, factoring is never, ever, ever going anywhere. All right, let's do these last ones, then we'll be done. I try to give you guys little hints here, some reminders about things that are super duper important. When you're asked to find the domain, it has to be an interval notation. When you're asked to find the vertical asymptote, it needs to be written as x equals. Horizontal asymptote needs to be written as y equals. Slant asymptote needs to be in y equals mx plus b. Your intercepts, x and y intercepts, need to be written as ordered pairs. And then we'll talk about holes here in a second, because I want to make sure you guys remember how to find the holes. All right, so let's go through all 4 of these. They'll go pretty quick, I promise. I'll just get a little reminder. If I look at number 9, let's find our domain in vertical asymptote. Where do I look again? Denominator, x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. When I factor this, what are the factors of negative 4? That give me negative 4 when I multiply and a negative 3 when I add. Minus 4 plus 1. So I have x equals 4 and x equals negative 1. Those are my vertical asymptotes. I also found my domain. What is the domain? Negative infinity to negative 1. Union. Negative 1 to 4. Union. 4 to infinity. Good. Very good. All right, horizontal asymptote. Compare numerator and denominator. What's the degree of the numerator? 1. What's the degree of the denominator? 2. 1 is what then 2? Less than? What's my answer here for a horizontal asymptote? Y equals 0. If I know my horizontal asymptote is y equals 0, what is my slant asymptote? None. Let's find x and y intercepts. X-intercept, I set the numerator equal to 0. What's my x-intercept, guys? 0, 0. That's your x-intercept. For my y, don't get tricked here. I'm going to plug in 0 for everything. So 0 squared minus 3 times 0 minus 4. Work this out. I get 0 over negative 4. What is the answer to that? 0. So your y-intercept is also 0, 0. If you leave it as 0 over 4, that's not correct. All right, how do I find holes again? Factor, numerator and denominator, all right? Numerator's already factored. We already factored the denominator. Minus 1. Oh, sorry, minus 4 and plus 1, right? Are there any factors in the numerator and the denominator that are exactly the same? No. So what's your answer here? No holes or none. Does anybody have questions on that? All right, let's go through this one. Let's go through them all real quick. Come on. Number 10, domain and vertical asymptote. Where do I look? The denominator, x squared minus 25 equals 0. X squared equals 25. So x equals what? plus or minus 5. Your vertical asymptotes are at x equals plus or minus 5. You've just found your domain, ladies and gents. I can use any number in the world except for -5 and +5. How do I write that? Negative infinity to -5. Union, -5 to 5. Union, 5 to infinity. Perfect. Horizontal asymptote. Compare numerator to denominator. What's my numerator degree? 2. What's my denominator degree? 2. 2 is what to 2? Equal to. So it's leading coefficient of the numerator, which is 2, over leading coefficient of the denominator, which is 1. So your horizontal asymptote is y equals 2. If you have a horizontal asymptote, what do you know about slant? There's none. Good. Let's find our intercepts. How do you find x-intercept? 2x squared equals 0. Numerator to 0. Divide by 2. X squared equals 0. What's my x-intercept? 0, 0. How do I find y? Plug in 0. So 2 times 0 squared. 0 squared minus 25. I get 0 over negative 25, guys, which is what? 0. So your intercept here is 0, 0. Good. And then how do you find holes? Factor. So 2x squared over x plus 5, x minus 5. What are the holes? None. What about if the factors were close? If it was like on top x plus 5 and on bottom x minus 5? No, it's got to be exactly the same. All right, 2 more, then we're done. Change this, please, to a minus 12. The way that I had it was plus 12, it'll work out to where it doesn't factor. You have to use quadratic, so that's just for ease of today. Let's go ahead and fix it. So change that to x minus 12, or x squared minus x minus 12. So domain and vertical asymptote. I look at the denominator. Hopefully I've said that so many times just in this last class period. You guys are kind of like, oh, okay. So when I work this out, I get x squared equals 9. Take the square root. You get x equals plus or minus 3. That's your vertical asymptotes. That's also your domain. What's my domain? Negative infinity to -3. Union, -3 to 3. Union, 3 to infinity. Perfect. All right. Horizontal asymptote. Let's compare. Numerator to denominator, 2 to 2. They're the same. So it's leading coefficient of the numerator over leading coefficient of the denominator. I get y equals 1. If I have a slant asymptote, if I have a horizontal, what do I know about my slant? None. There is not one. Good. All right, intercepts. How do I find intercepts? Numerator equal to 0. So x squared minus x minus 12 equals 0. Factor this. I have x minus 4, x plus 3. So x equals 4 and x equals -3. How do I write those as intercepts? 4, 0 and -3, 0. Have to have them as ordered pairs. I'm going to say that 19,000 times. You guys are still going to forget. Y-intercept. 0 squared minus 0 minus 12 over 0 squared minus 9. What does that give us here, guys? -12 over -9. What's a negative divided by a negative? Positive. And does that reduce? Yes, to positive 4 over 3. So this becomes, when I plug in 0 for x, I get positive 4 out of 3 out for y. That's your y-intercept. And lastly, on this one, we're going to look for holes. Factor numerator, denominator. We've already factored the numerator, x minus 4, x plus 3. We've already factored the denominator, x minus 3, x plus 3. Do I have anything in the numerator and the denominator that are exactly the same? Yes. So that means you do have a hole. So you would say, okay, there's a hole at x equals what? -3. You set that equal to 0 and solve. Good. All right, one more. Almost done. I know, I'm talking a lot. All right, vertical and domain. Where do I look again? The denominator. Denominator and vertical asymptote. So I have x minus 2 equals 0. X equals 2 is my vertical asymptote. My domain is negative infinity to 2. Union 2 to infinity. Yeah. Okay. Horizontal asymptote. Compare numerator degree to denominator degree. What is the degree of the numerator? 2. What's the degree of the denominator? 2 is greater than 1. What is your answer for horizontal asymptote? None. That means what? There is a slant asymptote. So how would we find the slant asymptote? Long division. X minus 2 on the outside. And on the inside, we have 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. So x into 3x squared is 3x. Get your subtraction going. So 3x squared minus 6x. Distribute, distribute, distribute. So you have 11x minus 2. How many times does x go into 11x? Plus 11. Do I need to finish anything else? No. What is my answer for my slant asymptote? Perfect. Y equals 3x plus 11. Has to have y equals. Couple more things and we're done. How do you find x-intercepts again? Numerator equal to 0. Factor this, guys. Negative 6. What are the factors of negative 6 that multiply to give me negative 6 but add to give me 5? Good. Plus 6 minus 1. What do I do with this 3? I have to divide each term by that because a is not 1. So I have x plus 2 and 3x minus 1 equals 0. So when I solve this, I have x equals negative 2 and I have x equals positive 1/3. How do I write my intercepts? As ordered pairs. So negative 2, 0, 1/3, 0. There's your x-intercepts. Y-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for every x I see. So 0 squared plus 5 times 0 minus 2 over 0 minus 2. So this goes away. I have negative 2 over negative 2 equals positive 1. So when I plugged in 0 for x, I got out positive 1. Make sure of your signs. And then lastly, to find our holes. And then we're done. Factor the numerator. Didn't we already do that somewhere? Yep, x plus 2, 3x minus 1. The denominator is already factored, x minus 2. So guys, do you see how you have x plus 2 and x minus 2? Right? They're similar, but are they the same? So your answer would be no holes or none. Questions? My suggestion to you is to rewatch this weekend. If you got everything down, great. If not, I might rework it through. But make sure you guys know the stuff on the cheat sheet because you will not have access to it. You absolutely will not. So make sure you know it. Yeah, it's not due till Tuesday morning, but you can turn it in now if you want, if you're done.